Hi, I'm Edward Funk, and this is podcast number 52. Title of it is 9-Year-Old Mickey Rooney to the Rescue. Now, all the recent podcasts and several going forward are coming from this book, Behind the Door, The Real Story of Loretta Young, of which I wrote. Um, I also want to say it's available on as an audiobook, is available as an ebook, and of course a paperback. Okay, here we go. Now, both Loretta Young and her sister Sally were leading ladies, but their priorities weighed differently. For Sally, it was just another facet of a very fun, filled life. Loretta recalled for every suitor that Polly Ann or I had, Sally had three. Loretta's childhood friend, Jane Mullen, who we've met in earlier podcasts, she recalled by far Sally was the most beautiful when they were young. She was dazzling. So for Loretta, being a leading lady was deadly serious. Her zeal for progress as an actress was noticed when, still at age 15, she played a captain's daughter in Scarlet Seas. It starred Richard Barthelmess. Now, Barthelmess had been a favorite of D.W. Griffith and was considered quite the romantic hero and big star. One day, Loretta was doing her studies on the side of the set with her tutor, Mrs. Holliday, and Loretta recalled. So we were sitting right next to the door. The producer came in and he said, Dick, I just saw the rushes. This little lady's a scene stealer. I got red as a beet. Dick Barthelmess looked at me. I tried to get deep into my books and study. He walked over to me and he said, Loretta, when you get to be a big star, and I think you're going to be one, remember, always get the very best actors around you that you can. The better you are, the better you look. And if it's a Loretta Young picture, you get the credit for it. They don't. Now, Scarlet Seas was released in December 1928 and was billed to have sound. Now, but it really wasn't a talkie. It had some sound effects. Hardly revolutionary at this point, since Warner Brothers had released The Jazz Singer in October 1927. The Warner Brothers scored such a huge coup, they could afford to buy First National Studios and move their operations to First National Studios' expansive Burbank lot. Scarlet Seas did represent an important first for Loretta. It was the first time that she saw her name on the marquee. She remembered. I just stood there and looked at it for quite a while. I was thrilled. Now, to see her name on many more marquees, Loretta would have to prove herself as a talking actress. Her first trial came with a movie called The Squall. Set in Hungary, the story dealt with the evils brought upon a household when a gypsy girl, played by Myrna Loy, descended upon them. Loretta's first words ever heard on screen were, "Look, it's the gypsies." Promoted as all dialogue, the ponderous script vocalized every conceivable thought. Sound stages had yet to be developed, and the company shot the whole picture at night. I recall many times we stopped in the middle of a scene, and the director would say, "Sorry, we got a truck." "All right, start over again." Now, what he meant was that they'd heard a truck. The camera was in a booth, so you didn't hear the click sound. The microphone was the god of the set. If you turned away for a second, they would stop and say, "I'm sorry, I didn't get that on the microphone." Now, reviewing Loretta's performance in The Squall, Variety stated, Loretta Young as an innocent Irma is a beautiful screen subject. Her voice, however, is identical with commencement exercises in a grammar school. So Loretta was 16 when she made Fast Life, the first of 6 pictures that she would co-star with Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Just a note here. That's the most movies she ever co-starred with one actor. I think Tower and Power was second, he was 5. With Douglas Fairbanks Jr., it was 6. Now, the New York Times gave Loretta the review. Loretta Young shows more promise with each production. One of Hollywood's prettiest ingenues, she is also gifted with an excellent speaking voice. Loretta had triumphantly navigated the hurdle of talking pictures. Now, Pollyanna and Sally, Loretta's older sisters, and Loretta were all working in films. Loretta and Sally as leading ladies, and Pollyanna as the contract player. However, Pollyanna and Sally's careers were about to hit snags. MGM did not pick up Pollyanna's option after she appeared in MGM's Flesh and the Devil as John Gilbert's scorned lover, and jobs became more sporadic. Sally's trouble began with Bug Schuberg, the head of Paramount, wanted Sally to be his mistress. Sally remembered, he even had the studio attorneys come and tell me what they would give me and how they'd write the contract. Sally, still a teen, had a very adult problem and no one to come to her rescue. The only way that she could extract herself from the mire was to walk away from a contract with Paramount, one of the premier studios in the industry. Her career would never really recover. Now, Loretta had she lived more autonomously than Pollyanna or Sally. She recalled those days. Paul and Sally shared a bedroom. Either I got the pull-down bed in the alcove off the living room, or if visitors came, I had the maid's room downstairs, and the maid slept on the back porch. The point is that I had my privacy quite early. Loretta also recalled, I thought I was a big hotshot movie actress at this time, and indeed I was. But at home, I was Loretta Young. No, not yet. I was Loretta, just fitting in anywhere that I could. Now, First National picked up Loretta's option every 6 months and raised her salary by $50 per week each time. They got their money's worth. At one time, she was actually making 3 pictures simultaneously. Loretta remembered there was one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one at night. Now, my tutor, Mrs. Holliday, never knew about the one at night because they would say to me, we're going to dismiss you and you go to your dressing room, but don't take off your makeup. Then Mrs. Holliday will go home, and when she's gone, you come back to the set and we'll work tonight. And now, it never bothered me. I love working. However, the studio didn't play fair. Loretta was 16 when she was hospitalized for complications of a painful ovulation, and the studio took her off salary while she was ill. Loretta recalled a young visitor to see her in the hospital. The nurse came in and said, there's a little boy outside. He said his name is Mickey Rooney. He was 9 at the time. The nurse didn't seem to know who he was. Loretta said, no, the nurse said, he's got a bunch of flowers and he wants to give them to you. I said, well, ask him to come in. He gave me the flowers and I asked him, how'd you get down here? He was just a little kid. He said, well, my car and driver brought me down. He asked me, how much do you work? I told him that I worked a lot, sometimes doing 3 pictures at the same time. He asked, do you work on Saturdays? I said, yes, and it bothered me because I just used to love going to those tea dances at the Coconut Grove on Saturday afternoon. He said, well, you're a minor. You don't have to work Saturdays or Sundays. You can work only 5 days a week, and you have an hour and a half for lunch, and you work from 9 until 6, and that's it. You have to have 4 hours of schooling and 4 hours of acting. I said, oh, and the whole thing began to open up for me. They would work me so hard, and then I'd get sick, and then they'd take me off salary. I wouldn't have minded if they hadn't taken me off salary. I knew that was wrong. When I returned to work, I went to see studio head Hal Wallace. I waited a couple hours to see him, and finally the secretary said, all right, Loretta, you can go in. Um, I said, Mr. Wallace, I've been in the hospital. He said, yes, I know. Then I said, I've been told that since I'm a minor, I have certain rights. He said, you're absolutely right. That's true. So I said, from now on, I'll just work from 9 until 6 and have an hour and a half for lunch and a rest period. He said, fine. And those were the hours that I put into my contract for the rest of my career. Even though Loretta was just 16 and an established leading lady, she was still traveling back and forth to the studio on a streetcar or a bus or with friends. Loretta remembered missing a bus and feeling panicky. I knew I was going to be late and I was scared to death. I'd been bawled out for being late on the set of Laugh Clown Laugh, and I never wanted to be late again. I called her friend Bill Getz, who was Daryl Zanuck's assistant. I was crying. I said, Bill, I'm just at the corner of Sunset and Cahuenga Boulevard. I missed the bus. All right, Loretta. He's calm down. I'll come and get you. He got into his little car and picked me up. I did just get on that set on time. A little message about Bill Getz. I mean, I think we've heard his name before when he was a gag writer for Colin Moore at First National. But now he's an assistant to Daryl Zanuck, who at this point is First National. But eventually he would be Louis B. Mayer, big guy at MGM, a son-in-law, and he'd also be the head of Universal International Pictures in the early 50s, the studio where Loretta was kind of finished out her movie career. So anyway, I only go into all that if you understand that these people knew each other since they were kids. And so those relationships meant something as the years went on. Now, Loretta was determined to get her own car. She recalled, I went to Jack Warner's office. I don't think I even saw him, but I told the secretary that I went to see Mr. Warner if he would loan me money and then take it out of my salary. She wanted to buy a car. A few weeks later, Loretta recalled participating in a motion picture rally at the Los Angeles Stadium. All the starlets from different studios rode around in open cars. I was sitting on the back of a convertible touring car. Jack Warner jumped up on the running board. He said, hey, kid, and patted me on the head. You're going to get that car. I'm going to give you the loan. Now, Loretta was seated next to a curly-haired, ruggedly handsome Warner Brothers leading man, Grant Withers. At 6'3", 185 pounds, Withers was a big guy. The hunk and the fragile beauty, they looked like the perfect Hollywood couple. Loretta's life was about to change in a huge way. Thank you.